Welcome back to the Coach Emery Show. I'm your host, Coach Emery, and today I have with me a really good friend of mine. We go way back, and this is Tamika Murphy. And she does a lot of things, but I want her to break down what she does, and I'm gonna jump in like I always do.
All right. So my name's Tamika Murphy. I am a real estate agent, not only a real estate agent, I am now the owner of M&B Realty Group. I am a real estate broker here in the city of Buffalo.
Nice. It's a lot of words to put with your name, man. So
Yeah.
for people who don't know what a broker is, what is a real estate broker?
So a broker, they're a little bit above a step of a real estate agent. We have a little bit more training to go through as far as learning the market, as far as learning the real estate world. And a broker also, it gives you the opportunity to mentor and as well as open your own brokerage and run your own team and run your own business.
That's dope. Wow. So is it a lot of brokers like that or is it not easy to become a broker?
So I do know a lot of brokers, but what I found out over the last 10 years is that a lot of real estate agents don't even want to go through the process, the education, the learning, to become a broker or get that brokerage license. Because it is a lot of work.
Okay. Gotcha. That makes a lot of sense. And it makes sense why you will be a person that would have done that, because as long as I've known you, you've been like I don't want to say overachiever, but a high achiever. I feel like you've always worked hard towards the things that you wanted. We've started out our early lives together and then crossed paths in the business world. And then now, back in entrepreneurship. So I want to ask you a couple questions about the transition from going from corporate America into entrepreneurship. And when did you know it was the right time and what made you want to do it?
Okay. So I worked for a financial institution, actually a couple, for a combined of maybe 15 years. I would say I've always had in the back of my mind that real estate was something that I wanted to do, even when I left high school and went on to college. But, life happens, family happens, friends happen. And we, as, growing up as young adults, we, lose track of what's really important to us. So I probably would say, probably 11 or 12 years ago, just working in wealth management and a financial institution. And I'm just looking at all of these wealthy clients that I had, and everyone became wealthy somehow having to do with real estate. So in my mind, I'm like, I'm in a wrong business. I'm handling their money, their accounts, their investments, when I should be the one that, is out here handling, where they get in the investments money and, real estate from. So when you have your mind set on something, nothing else can kind of like hold you back. So, the last 2 years in my financial institution, when I tell you everything, and this is how I think everyone in corporate America knows that it's over. When every little thing that your boss, your managers, your coworkers say, when you just don't care anymore, that's when it's time. Follow your dreams, because they're gonna fire you, or you're gonna quit on the scene, or so that's what happened to me. That's what happened.
I feel like that sums up like every entrepreneur. Like, you could walk in the door and the elevator ding, and it's like, oh, I hate that elevator, but it don't matter what it is.
Right. When your energy change, as soon as you pull into that parking lot or you walk in that building, when that energy starts to shift and change, and you have nothing but negative thoughts, like, this day, here I go with these people. Why they got to say good morning to me? Like every little thing, and it was 2 years in the making.
Yeah. It's a beautiful yet ugly transformation when you go through that, right? Because it's very scary, believing that, I'm going to take this safety net from under me and I'm going to jump. That's something I believe in more than anything else. And I'm going to take these signs of, the frustration that I have by just seeing the yellow lines of the parking lot.
Right.
Like, I want to take this as a sign that this place no longer serves me. And then when you make the jump, the first step, it's like the biggest gasp. It's like, what did I just do? Right. And it's like that feeling. Like, how did you overcome that feeling? Like, what was the first move you made when you got that feeling?
So it wasn't just like a first move. It was probably me calling like my best friend and my husband every single day on breaks, on lunches, like complaining. I remember I called my husband one time, and I was just like in tears. And I only cry when I'm nervous, like real nervous or really pissed off. And it was something that my manager did at the time. And I can't even put my finger. She probably said something, wanted me to do somebody else's work or something like that. And I just called my husband, and I'm crying, like, I can't do this no more. They passed me up. I'm sorry. They passed me up on another promotion for somebody that I trained. And,
Mm.
so I remember just calling him crying, and he's like, just wait it out. You almost at that point, just wait it out. Um, and then I remember my grandmother dying, and I took off. I probably didn't have any days to take off, but I took off unpaid. And when I came back that week, it was so much work. And I think that was probably my breaking point. It was so much work. I felt like the manager was not sympathetic at all with what I was going through. And it was just, at that point, I'm like, I don't care. Do the work yourself. I'm not coming in tomorrow. I'm taking another day off. And
Right.
honestly, let me tell you something that I've never told anyone.
Exclusive.
All these interviews that I've done, and everyone just assumes. So I will tell you this. I remember like yesterday, we were coming back from a meeting, and it's almost time to clock out. And my manager is like, Tamika, can I see you in the boardroom? And they call you in that boardroom, but I've
At
been
the
in
end
that
of the
boardroom.
day.
Right. I've been in that boardroom so many times. I'm like, oh, what, are they going to write me up? Like, what's going on? So I get in the boardroom, there's like four other people around. And this was the time that they were laying people off and just letting go of people.
Mm.
And it was like four people around. And normally, like, I would probably get nervous. When I tell you I was not nervous, I sat at that table, and they said, we're letting you go. And I'm like, okay, where do you want me to sign? Like,
Right.
where do you want me to sign? And they're like, well, do you have any questions? Nope. Nope,
Oh,
I don't have any questions at all. Just give me, and I thank them. I thank them for, training me to, be the best that I can at that job. Because what I learned was I was going to take everything from that job and incorporate it into, building my own business.
wow. So, do you feel like you would have quit had then I did
Oh,
that?
yeah. I was actually, I had already planned my exit plan with actually quite a few people that are now entrepreneurs. Every single day in lunch and breakfast, we were sitting there at the tables planning our exit plans. But I was actually that week, so I got fired probably like on a Tuesday or a Wednesday. That following Monday was when I was planning on giving them my resignation letter. So I was going to give them my 2 weeks letter. So I think that, again, that's not, it didn't bother me as much. It just didn't happen on my time.
Right. Right. That's you know what, it's crazy because sometimes when we have things happen in that way, right?
Mhm.
It's like you're standing on, it's like I never went skydiving out of a helicopter, but everybody says they push you on 2
Oh, yeah.
instead of 3, right? So it's
Mhm.
kind of like that feeling right there. Like, I'll be
Yep.
ready Monday and you get fired Thursday, right?
Mhm.
It's always that little bit of, I'm gonna push you just in case you get in your way. I'm gonna
Right.
make sure you do this thing you said you're gonna do.
And I've seen that as a sign. I'm like,
Mhm.
okay, but I will tell you, somewhere you've been for so long, that's all I knew in most of my adult years.
Right.
So, I talk big stuff. I'm sorry.
You could
I
cuss, you
talk,
could say
I
shit.
talk, I talk big shit for the longest. And when it happened at the moment, I'm like, okay. But then like the next day, I was like, what the hell just happened? Like,
Right. Right.
like, like, what am I gonna do? And at the time I had my real estate license, I was just working part-time. And, I felt myself like getting depressed, for that whole week. I'm like, I'll get up like I'm getting ready to go to work, realize I don't gotta go to work. I'm dropping the kids off. And I felt myself like sitting on the couch being depressed, forgetting that I had real estate really to fall back on because I've been preparing myself for 2 years prior to this. So at the time, my clientele was already picking up.
Right.
So, I was sitting on the couch one day and my husband was like, "What is wrong with you?" And I'm like, "I can't believe, these people let me go." And he was like, "You got a business. You need to run that business.
Right.
And so I'm like, "But I don't know." And he was like, "You need to run that business." And that probably like an hour or two after that conversation, I got up, I went to my then brokerage company. And from that point forward, I was in that office just learning from, people that was there way longer than I was
Yeah.
on what to do and how to do it. And that's how the business kind of grew from there.
That's amazing that you mentioned that, because that phase, no, a lot of people don't talk about, right? They
Mhm.
talk about the desperation that you feel when it's time to leave something. But a lot of people don't acknowledge that moment, right? Like it's the, when you jump and
Mhm.
all the way down to you feel like you hit something, like you landed
Mhm.
somewhere. It may not be rock bottom and maybe wherever you plan to meet, but that distance between that jump or that push and where you stop at, it's
Right.
like such an uncomfortable feeling.
Oh
And
yeah.
I'm so glad you had a support system
Oh
to
yeah.
like, hey, yo, you got this, you got stuff. You know what I'm
Mhm.
saying? You feel like
Yep.
that support system um continues to elevate you, or you feel like that's
Absolutely. Nope. And I sometimes I feel so bad when I talk to other entrepreneurs, and I do a lot of mentoring too,
mhm,
where people say they don't have their families to support them or their friends don't support them, or and I feel bad for those people because I didn't have that. So, my husband was always there, my siblings were always there, my best friends were always, it was always someone there to tell me like, "You got this, keep going," and to push me forward. My
right,
kids, even my kids, as young as they were at the time, we as parents feed so much into your children. When they start feeding into you, you have no other option but
right,
to
right.
succeed because, you know,
Yeah, that's
so
a
yeah.
that's amazing. And again, that's another thing I'm glad you said, because a lot of people have that story of, I had nobody, I had no help, especially people from our culture, right? It's very common to do it all alone, right? We didn't get a $20,000 loan from grandma or granddad or dad, or,
Exactly.
so a lot of us don't, we don't have the proper support system in that aspect. But it's good to hear someone who did have the proper
Mhm.
support in the home structure, because a lot of times the story is you did it by yourself, and sometimes people um rob themselves of the opportunity to use that as a benefit to
And
themselves, right?
we still do though. We still
Mhm.
do because you got all these people believing in you to do something great. But in our minds, it's like, you still not doing enough. Like, I
Right.
can't do it, or, how am I supposed to get from this step to this step? You have these people believing in you, but at the end of the day, we as entrepreneurs are the hardest on ourselves. It's
Absolutely.
still like, I'm not doing enough. Like, I'm not making enough. I'm not providing enough. So
Right. I had that moment this morning. I had to write my thoughts out. I'm like, yo, what got me feeling like this, man? I wrote it down in my book and I wrote it as questions and I answered the questions. It's like, okay, that's where it is right there.
yeah.
We have a lot of questions in our head and we look outside for the answers sometimes. And lately I've been just like, yo, write it down as a question and then like
Mhm.
go drink some tea and come back to the question as myself, like as my full confident self. You know what I mean? And I'm glad that, like you said, it is something that we have to overcome. And people like you and I, with the connection that we do have to the community and the people in the community and businesses in the community, that's something that we're going to even further, right? That we're aware of that now. So I'm glad that you are mentoring people. I'm glad that you are building a network of entrepreneurs, and your company has expanded so much. Tell me a little bit about your company and how you decided to start your own brokerage.
Okay, so my company, MMB Realty Group, I am co-founder. So it's three of us, myself, Mia Mutri, and Rosalind Bergen. So just a little back history. I know I met Mia. I didn't know Mia coming into real estate, but I did meet her at my very first brokerage. We didn't know each other, but a mutual friend kind of said, "Hey, you two work at the same brokerage. You should meet each other." Um, Although I was in the office like every day, she was part-time at the time that I went full-time. So we kept missing each other. And then one day, we've seen each other in the office, we talked. And I it's taken me a long time to get to the place where I am in life. And even, 10 years ago, because I was never a people person. And, a lot of times I just had like this chip on my shoulder. I didn't trust anyone. I didn't really want to talk to anyone. Didn't want anybody in my business. But, in the office, just talking to Mia, we talked a few times. We helped each other out with clients a few times. And then we went to lunch and realized that we had, kind of like the same goals and mine. So probably like a year after we met, we decided to partner up and become Team Moultrie and Murphy. Again, we were at a company where, after a few years, after 5 years at that company, they just weren't supporting us the way we felt we should have been supported.
Right.
There. So then we met. Mia actually had a deal with Rosalind. Now, quick story about Rosalind. Rosalind was actually one of the only Black real estate agents that I've seen or heard of. So I would drive through my neighborhood and her signs will be up everywhere. I've never met, I never talked to her. I never met her. But I'm like, oh, I can do this. This is a Black real estate agent. I can do that. So a couple of years down the road, Mia had an interview or lunch with Roz. Roz said, hey, you guys should come over to our brokerage. And I'm telling Mia, no, we're not leaving. Again, that fear
Right.
and being comfortable. And Mia's like, no, let's just go meet with Roz. Let's just go meet. We're not leaving. We go meet with her, and instantly I'm like, I want to come over to that company. I want to be with Roz. She's the manager, one of the only Black managers and probably any of the real estate companies within the city of Buffalo that I know of. And we know a lot of brokerages. At the time, she was one of the assistant managers.
Wow.
So I kind of wanted her to mentor me. So we went over to that company, was there for a couple of years. Then the pandemic hit. So by that time, Mia, Roz, and I, we would have our monthly reviews, and she would call us in the office, and one of my goals, and she would ask what my goal is. And my goal was to always run my own company. Mia thought I was out my mind. Roz thought I was out my mind. And I'm like, no, we're going to do it. We're going to run our own company. Pandemic hit.
Wait, you included them in it even in the vision.
Mm-hmm.
That's dope.
Yeah, I knew I wanted to collaborate with someone. I just didn't know who it was. But me and Mia had already did so well, and then Roz was like, she wasn't really going where she wanted to go in that company. Yeah. So Roz said, we had lunch one time and she said, I think it's time. And I was like, it's time for what? It's time for what? And she said, it's time.
Wow.
And again, talking big stuff, but when it was time, I was like, oh, no, I can't do this.
Right.
I can't do this. So in the process of planning, to make a long story short, in the process of planning, the pandemic hit. Mm-hmm. So it was just kind of like, we might as well just wait. We don't know what's going to happen. Nope. We were like, we're not waiting. We got our attorney. We talked to our accountant. We talked to actually a couple of attorneys, accountants, like business mentors. We interview people.
A lot of people.
We continue to interview people because it was like, if we're going to do it, we need to do it the correct way. Right. And we set our business up the way that we seen fit. And when that pandemic hit, it was like we opened and we just took off from there.
How do you feel? Okay, so let me ask you a question. Again, another time, a lot of people, like, the pandemic is such a controversial topic for me, right? Mm-hmm. I feel like for a lot of people, the pandemic was, again, jumping on too, maybe pushing you on too, mm-hmm. right? For instance, you said you were planning, which I were planning, then the pandemic hit and it kind of pushed you, like you would have been ready in 3 months. Yeah. And the pandemic hit and now, it pushes you in. And now that I want to go back to something you said. Now that you mentioned it, I remember seeing the team Murphy and Moultrie sign. Yeah. Moultrie Murphy. Yes, I remember seeing that. And it's so interesting that you said that Rosalind was one of the only faces you would see that that you could identify with even before you became a real estate agent, right?
She was the one that like really pushed, seeing her sign in a lot of different places. It was her and probably one other Black real estate agent. And I seen their signs all over my neighborhood and everything. And I'm like, I can do it. If they can do this, I can do this.
Right.
And Yeah.
Now, how amazing does it feel for that to be your partner though? Right? Like how dope is that for that to be like someone you
Listen,
aspire to be like, and now you roll with them.
I tell her this all the time, and I say it in a lot of interviews. In my mind, when God has a plan for you and you have a plan for yourself, but you don't necessarily see the people and you don't necessarily see the money, and he brings all of that together, because it wasn't in my mind to leave my first company and go over to another company
Right.
because I was comfortable. Even though we weren't being treated the way we thought, I was there at that real estate company for 5.5 years. So I was comfortable. But speaking with Roz, when we went over to that other company, I was never fully like comfortable, but I was comfortable with Roz. I wasn't
Right.
comfortable with the company, but I was comfortable with Roz.
I dig it. That makes so
Yeah.
much sense. And it's interesting that it's so interesting how things happen. Like your story,
Yeah.
I want to dissect it so much because these are the moments that a lot of people sometimes miss. Right. And obviously not you, but people miss this even in their own stories sometimes. Like the fact that you got there and you're the reason you stayed was Roz, right? But you weren't comfortable there, which already created in your mind, this isn't forever.
Right.
Then you already knew, like, yo, I want to, with her continually asking you, a lot of bosses, a lot of managers or leaders don't ask their team what their goals
Right.
outside of that team is, right? Because that requires them to understand this person doesn't desire to be here forever. So a lot of companies will ask you, what are your goals within the company? What do you want to be within the company in 5 years? And she got to you like, hey, what do you want to do after this? Like, what's your bigger goal? And I think
that was something that was never, never really asked.
And I'm glad that it was coming from her, because in your mind, like, how dope is that this person now that I respect so much wants to know what I want to do next. Like, yeah, that was dope that you were able to soak up that game and get that. One of my supervisors at years ago at a job is now one of my closest friends. And it's so interesting how it happened, because it was a job I was really good at the job, but I hated the job. I was amazing at it. When I do, when you show up in the space and you do the thing, it's amazing, right? But when you show up, you don't want to do it, even if you can do it well, it sucks your soul, right? It drains you. And so he knew, like, yo, you don't want to be here, man. He's like, yo, do you want to be here? I'm like, no. He like, I bet. So listen, this is what we're gonna do. We're gonna ride this thing out until I let you go. I'm gonna give you a heads up so you know what's going on. So like one day he walks in, he's like, today's the day. I'm like, bet. Like, and so, but it's the bond that he and I have is so crazy. Like he's like literally like a brother to me. Right. And so we've went on to do, endeavors together, businesses, things like that together. And when I got to that job, he was just this really cool guy that was the manager. And, I didn't know much about him except for that he was just a cool dude. I ended up getting moved to his team. And that's when we had our conversations and built the beginning of our relationship. Had no idea how far I was going to go. So after I left that place, he and I began our first like coaching venture together.
Right.
And so it's really cool how that happened, because had I not been put in a position to be at the place I didn't want to be and then be moved to his team as like a last resort for him to like, yo, if somebody can whip you into shape, it's gonna be him.
Yeah.
Nah, doesn't work like that.
I tell people all the time, including my agents, you cannot always be comfortable, because once you become uncomfortable, that's when you start making or being pushed into uncomfortable situations that make you want to just do what you got to do to become successful. And I just feel like most of my life I've been placed in uncomfortable situations where you just have no choice but just to adapt.
Absolutely. I'm glad you brought up the most of your life part, because we're pretty young, right? We're pretty young.
We are.
Sometimes we don't treat ourselves like it, but we're really young. We're really young in comparison to what our parents were doing at this age. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
That's so when I think about that, I know that you have children. Do you mind talking about that?
No, go ahead.
Okay, cool.
We're open book here.
I'm just making sure. You know what I'm saying?
You.
Some people don't want their kids talked about. I want them people.
Go ahead.
So My oldest daughter, she has her own business that she started, and it's a passion project. And I know that you encourage your children the same, to, to follow their passions, and you help them invest in those things. Do you feel like you had that when you were younger?
Nope.
No.
Nope. So when growing up, I grew up as a foster child. So I was from the age of 6 till I went to college at the age of 17.
Wait, so
So,
it chopped you out. Your phone
oh, I'm
muted for a
sorry.
second.
I was
It did it again.
put my phone on do not disturb. I'm sorry.
It's cool.
I was a foster kid from the age of 6 to I went off to college at 16, or just turning 17. So although I had, foster parents, and they did what they could. Growing up, I just never felt like I had that push of encouragement. It was
Right.
always I had to do something that they wanted me to do. Like I went to hair school, I became a cosmetologist. You got to go to the school to do this, you got to do that, you got to be, so I was never, it was always what they wanted me to be and what they wanted me to do.
Yeah.
So when I went off to school, that was kind of like, like most young adults, they get off to school and they get wild, and, they got that freedom and they do whatever they wanted to do. But growing up, I never had the type of encouragement at home that I try to give my kids now.
Right. Now, do you feel like it's because you didn't have it, or do you just feel like we're in a different time and space where that's more normal?
Both.
Okay.
I know I didn't have it. I know I didn't have it. But even if I had just an inkling of somebody saying, they believe in me and believe in my dreams, back then, like some of my friends had, my path probably would have, I probably would have been a multi-billionaire by this point. You never know.
About
but,
$50.
Right.
Multi-billionaire.
Right. But I didn't have that then. So a lot of things I kind of like had to teach myself and, grow myself and figure a lot of things out myself. Now with my kids, it's, we always want to treat our kids, or we always want to give our kids what we didn't have. So I kind of, and sometimes we overdo it. Sometimes we
Exactly.
give them too much where, they become entitled and just feel like, they deserve it because they're them, instead of having to work for certain things. But yeah, I've never felt, completely different than the way I was raised.
Yeah. That's pretty interesting that you shared that part about us overdoing it, some people overdoing it, because it's like how, it's like if you've never seen something done, how do you know if you're doing it too much? Right. So it's like, it's a balance that you have to, sometimes it's like, it's tough because we want to like give them all the game that we've gotten over the years. We want to show them all the things that we know. And sometimes it's like, I gotta let you experience that on your own.
Gotta let you bump your head sometimes.
Right.
And I go through that with with both my kids, but I have an 18-year-old and I have a 13-year-old. My 18-year-old will be 19 soon. And it's so many things that I'm like, I can only tell you once. After I tell you the second time, if you don't take my advice, you got to see what the consequences are. And I tell them, and they'll tell you, every action has a reaction, every reaction has a consequence. So you have to deal with that based on the decision that you make.
Yeah, absolutely. It's so interesting because I kind of had I said it's interesting because I kind of had a similar situation where I had some support, but it was more so like support for what you think I should do.
Yeah.
Right. So it's like I had encouragement, but as soon as you slip off the path they want you on, it's like, oh, you're wasting your life, you're gonna ruin your, and it's like, nah, man, but I'm feeling something different. So for years we often step into a space where, people talk about imposter syndrome. I think at the age when your family or your friends are encouraging you to be something, you're actually an imposter, like for real. Like it's not just a syndrome, because you're living a life now for others, right? And imposter syndrome is you're living a life for you. You just don't feel adequate or whatever at that moment for the role. But actually being an imposter is when, you let people encourage you to do something that's not even in your path, in your plan for yourself. So I feel like, a lot of us had that. So now that we are aware, our children are going to be equipped with so many weapons that we didn't have at our disposal. And I think that
Exactly.
sometimes that like it's almost like it skipped a generation of you know awareness.
Right.
So I know that you have over the last like 2 years basically with your business since the pandemic, you have scaled like the things that you've done, like went from agent to broker to owning your own brokerage, you're partnering with your own team of brokers, and doing something like that and having that much of a transition that fast. Do you feel like you fully are comfortable in that space yet, or do you feel like you're growing into it every day?
I'm definitely growing into it every day. I learn something new every single day.
Mhm.
Um, I've been thrown into like a mentor position where before I get to pick and choose who, who to
Yeah.
mentor and who, like now we have a small boutique company and we have 19 agents.
Mhm.
So I'm dealing with, the different personalities, and I'm dealing with the different questions and the different ways of learning. So I learn as they learn sometimes too. I can bring them all the experience, all the knowledge that I know, teach them every single thing that I know, but we also, I'm growing every single moment in this business.
That's so dope, man.
Yeah.
That's so dope. I love that. Like, 'cause it's such a, it's so refreshing to hear you. You know, you're very transparent with it. Like a lot of people I talk to, you know, apparently I pick good people because they give a lot of the introspective stuff. But with you being
Mhm.
transparent about still learning, and you know, and honestly, just like about the fact that like you used to be able to pick the people you mentor, now it's kind of like they're handed to you, you know, in a
Right.
way. And
And we
so,
still, right, in a way. So we still like kind of handpick people to come into the
Mhm.
business. We don't, we probably do interviews every other week or something, but we don't hire a lot of people. We still get the handpick. But I consider myself like a people reader. Like I'm a good, I can read people really well too. So in this business though, when you have so many people, sometimes you make mistakes. As any new entrepreneur, you're going to make mistakes. You're going to make a lot of them.
I made one
um,
today.
and people, right. And I just feel like a lot of new entrepreneurs, they don't see that. They just feel like when they make a mistake, they fail, they quit. And I don't have the options or opportunity to quit. It's not in me. But some people are just like, well, I'm gonna let it go. I'm not working with this person anymore. I'm not working with that person for, just leave everything where it is. And that's not in me. So I grow, and I'm still learning to become a patient person.
That's you sound smart.
Yeah,
You sound
yeah,
smart. I feel like I wasn't
I would like to think so.
sound real smart. Like I'm like, nah, man, I'm not. I don't know if I'm on this level.
Yeah, no, you
No,
are.
I'm just playing. I'm just messing with you. But so let's transition a little bit real quick into concepts, right? So like in building this business and in building what you've done over time as an entrepreneur, like even as a real estate agent, you're an entrepreneur. So,
Mhm.
you know, from that time to now, what would you say is one of the biggest lessons that you've learned? And what would you say you know, was it easy for you to understand that lesson? Like, was it easy for you to get that lesson, or was it something you had to bump your head a couple times?
So one of the biggest things I learned was, and we say this in my office all the time and to my agents, is either, and this is something that my business partner Roz instilled in me, is either a earning day or a learning day. So where I might not have deals every single day, but I'm learning something every single day, and it just tells me that the day is not a complete waste. I'm reading something every single day. I'm answering questions every single day. So just because I'm not making money on that day or that week or that month
Right.
doesn't necessarily mean I'm failing, because to me, I'm always, finding new ways to teach, or finding new ways to mentor, or finding new ways to train or something like that. So one of the biggest things, and I take that by me telling myself that a lot. It teaches me a little bit more patience with myself, not with
Yeah.
just anybody I encounter, but just with myself, just to know that, okay, well, you didn't make no money this month, because it will be some months that, especially in real estate, it could be a few months where you don't make any money. But as long as you keep your mind sharp, keep reading and, keep educating yourself on certain things, whatever you educate yourself on during those months, when
Right.
you are starting to make money, you're gonna make even more, because now at this point you've learned so much more during those down times.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Makes a lot of sense. A
Okay.
lot of sense. And I like that concept because, with me being a solopreneur, like it's like I have an assistant that helps me when I need help, but for the most part, it's me. And I have a team around me, but they're not always in the day to day.
Uh-huh.
And so I have a really tough time with those learning days because I'm like, yo, am I moving the needle or not? Like, you know what I'm saying? Sometimes you don't
Mhm.
really know that. And I think that having somebody in your camp and your team keeping you accountable, like, yo, today wasn't that day, right? Today is the
Uh-huh.
day for something else. And I think that that's
Right.
really cool to have that balance. And it's something I'm going to take from this as well, because that'll help me with those transitional days where I'm like, yo,
Yeah.
I'm just, getting calls, but I'm not really booking nothing, or, you know what I'm saying? Something like
Right.
that. So that just helped me because I really didn't look at it that way. Right.
Yeah.
I'm always I try to do it all in every day. So then that
Mhm.
creates, if I'm not earning that day, but I'm still learning, I feel like I'm not, in that space. So that's dope.
Right.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
So you
It's,
talked about downtime. I want to talk about downtime. I want to end this on a fun note. So what do you do for fun? All I do is ever see you work. I see you work all the time. And what do you do for fun?
so obviously I have my husband and my kids, so we try to, dinner, family time, backyard time, we do barbecues.
Mhm.
And then I have my circle of people, which could include my brother, my sister-in-law, my best friends, my cousins. Um, every weekend we all kind of do different tasks. Like last week we had a colors party. I might at the drop of a dime say, hey, everybody come over, I'm gonna put the fire pit on. I really don't like going out much. I just like simplicity.
Mhm.
I don't have to be around a crowd of people. I don't have to have everyone see me. Actually, I used to hate going to networking events. I hated it. But for fun, we just, I just hang around my family and friends
That's cool.
privately.
See, I thought I was the only person that like that's my fun. Like, yo, for fun, I just want to chill. Like, what you want to do today? Oh, it's a great day to chill. Like,
Uh-huh.
look at it's 80
Yep,
degrees. It's a great day to do nothing. Like, this is
yep.
perfect.
And I do, I love it when, like last week, not all of my clients seemed to be on vacation. I'm like, what am I gonna do? So I just, it was just stuff around the house that I'm like, okay, I gotta get done. I've been neglecting certain things, and let me do a little bit of shopping and, enjoy my backyard space. So it's just, yeah, I just like to be, you know, just like
That's
to sit
dope.
around.
That's dope. So I'm gonna ask you a question. So the first question I'm gonna ask you is, what advice would you have for someone who either just got their license, hasn't gotten their license yet, or has their license and doesn't know what to really do with it? What advice would you give them, since you're someone who actually kind of, you actually hire people, right?
Hmm.
So you're the kind of person that they would want to know something from. So
Hmm.
what advice would you give?
So when I have let me just when I have people come and sit in front of me, brand new agents, and they're thinking about going through the class. The first thing I tell them, because I don't want anybody to go in thinking that, this is just going to be a breeze, I let them know that it's not easy. I let them know that if they're coming in, have some sort of savings, because there will be, months that you're not receiving a paycheck. I let them know that, this costs money. So I get out all of the negative stuff first. I get out all of the negative stuff first, but I also tell them that when they come into real estate, this is their business. They're running the business. I can only, train you. I can only mentor you, but you have to implement and put in. You have to feed into your own business. What you feed into it, you get out of it. Um, you have to be patient, and you got to try to be, you got to try to get along with everyone.
Mhm.
Is it easy? Nope. And I tell people that it's not easy. My first couple of years in real estate, I had to, by that third year, I had to do a complete turnaround. But it's not something that you're just going to come in and think you're going to make all of this money. You have to put the work into it.
Yeah.
It's not instant gratification like
right.
so many people are looking for.
And that's good for people to know, like, your instance in your story earlier, you said like when you were at a corporate job, you were doing real estate part-time. It was something you had under your belt, but it wasn't your full-time thing.
Right.
And so you allowed that to make you money and connections and, be your networking really to build your portfolio of people while you had some that was guaranteed.
Right.
And so,
and it's hard. And it's hard. Like a lot of people don't do social media, but I mean, I didn't really get into social media until I started doing real estate. And, I made a lot of clients off of social media. Some of them I probably would never talk to again and wish I would have did my research on them prior. And some of them we've actually become like really good friends and, kind of like family now. I'm invited to all of the baby showers, the weddings, the, graduation. So it's a rewarding occupation, but it just depends on how you run it as a business owner.
That makes a lot of sense. And I like that. And I hope that if you are watching, you are a real estate agent, thinking about becoming a real estate agent, or have your license and kind of don't know what to do, that's some, information that you can hopefully take with you, because it's something that I wanted to do. I told you a while ago, like, yo, I'm gonna get my license. I never did. Because
it's not too late though.
Right. And I'm going to, but it's what I realized was I was doing a lot. I was very busy, but I wasn't actually getting stuff done. So I put a lot of things to the side, like, yo, do what I'm doing in this moment right now. Because as a thinker, we could have a million ideas, but chasing those ideas all at the same time, you look like that dog in the yard.
Yeah. So, I know. I have my mind works crazy. I have ideals every day. But I do tell people too, because we have real estate agents and they come and they already own 5 or 6 different businesses. And one of the questions that I ask them is, what is your why? Because you have to find what makes you happy. It's not just something that you want to come into, spend the money, and then not work it.
Right.
Because then you're just wasting money, you're wasting your time, and you're wasting everybody else's time.
Right.
So if you already own 3, 4, 5, and 6 different businesses, great. But at some point, if you want to see a return on real estate, you have to, you got to kind of stay focused on that for a little bit.
That's dope. That makes sense. And so somebody like me, I definitely need to wait like a little while because I do so much, and a lot of it is like when I'm building something, my brain is hyper focused, right? But even in my hyper focus, as I'm building something, like, oh, and this could be, and it's like, yo, hey, chill. Like, I gotta put my brain on do not disturb when I'm working. Like, not my phone. My phone don't bother me. It's my brain that needs to be put on do not disturb. So that is definitely, something for me specifically, like come into this thing when I got the time to dedicate time to it.
Yeah.
So that's dope.
And you might decide to do it at 50.
I might. Once I'm a billionaire, I might just want to sell houses.
Hey.
Because I'm gonna be a billionaire by 44 and a half. Oh yeah,
okay.
44 and a half. Yeah, so
you wouldn't even have to sell houses at that time.
I'm gonna give them away. I'm saying I'm gonna meet with people, you know what I'm saying? And then like I'm gonna make them think they gotta buy the house, make them go through all the process, submit the paperwork, and I'm gonna give them the house. I just want to make sure y'all serious.
Oh, I like that. When you get to that point, call me.
We're gonna make it a show.
I'll be a billionaire partner.
Yeah, it's gonna be a show. We're gonna have a show.
All right.
Yeah, absolutely. So before we get there to that part, this next man, see, now I lost my question. I knew I was going to do that. I lost my question. It's probably for the best because it was a really tricky question too. So lastly, what I want you to do is take a couple moments to let people know where they can find you, things that you have coming up, and whatever you want people to know. I'm going to shut my mouth and I'm going to let you just rock out until you're done.
All right. So, our office is located, M&B Realty Group office is located at 651 Delaware Ave. That's downtown Buffalo on the corner of Delaware and North, a big brick building. You can contact the office at 716-534-8495. If you want to reach me directly, you can find me on Facebook. It's Tamika Collins Murphy Sells Homes. Tamika Collins Murphy _ realtor on Instagram. You can find me there as well, or just my personal Facebook page, which is open, at Tamika Collins Murphy. Just type me in or Google me. You can find all of those, all of that information there on Google as well.
That's dope.
All
So
right.
I'm glad that they know where to find you now. I'm glad they know where to find you. So now, before we end this thing, I'm gonna ask you a question.
Okay.
Now, because we got history, I can ask you an even cooler question.
Okay.
So, do you remember the bus number that we used to be on?
Was it? I think it was 428. Was it 428?
It was 428.
Okay.
It was 428. All right. Now spin-off question. Do you remember our bus aide name?
Oh my gosh, no. But I remember how she looks. And it's so funny that you said this, because probably about 5 years ago, I seen her in Tops or something, and I just called out her name. I don't know. Like I would have to see her face, but I don't. What was it?
Miss Lily.
Miss Lily. Yep, Miss Lily.
Yes. Wow. That's how far we go back. Cheese bus
Yep,
days. So
Miss Lily.
that's
Campus,
so
Campus West.
Campus West. Yes. Yes. Yo, speaking of which, I don't want to
Shout
talk about
out
this
to
on the
Miss
show.
Doyle.
Yo, okay. You just did it. You just did it for me. So if you have my book, I have a chapter in there about Eva Doyle. Eva Doyle is Miss Doyle, and Miss Doyle was a teacher at Campus West and many other places throughout. I don't think she ever stops teaching. Like, no matter, she doesn't have to be at school, she's just teaching. But I ran into her recently. I hadn't seen her in a long time. She had a copy of my book already, and she knew I wrote a chapter about her. And she was just like, I'm so thankful, I'm just, honored to be in your book. And I didn't know some of those things about you. And it was cool. And then I'm like, you know what? I want to put together an event to honor you.
Oh, wow.
So, and she was like, I would like that. I'm like, can I do that for you? Because you got to ask people sometimes. You don't want to just do it. And they're like, nah, I don't want to be there. She said, yo, I would love that. And I'm like, I'm going to get a lot of our, peers together, people that we were students with her. And we're going to do it at her library, at the auditorium in her library, in the Meriwether Library. But the auditorium's named after her now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So I was standing in there and I have a picture with her. And I'm like, yo, her name is on this library. Like, not only did she impact me, she impacted so many other people to the point where she has an auditorium in the library. So we're putting that together. So stay tuned for that. I wanted to bring it up. I'm like, I don't want to talk about it on the show, but then you was like, this Doyle. I'm like, yo, bet.
Well, let me just tell you, I know we're about to end, but let me just tell you about Miss Doyle, because you asked like if anybody ever kind of in the beginning pushed me to do something. And Miss Doyle, I think we had her English maybe 4th or 5th grade.
Yes.
And it was an essay writing contest. And the winner of the essay writing contest, it was like a national essay writing contest.
The Richmond speaking contest?
No, not the Richmond, which is crazy because I was in a Richmond speaking contest and fainted.
Yo.
I fainted. 7th grade Richmond speaking contest, fainted on Campus West State.
I need the video.
But I wanted, and my family was like so disappointed because I was doing a Maya Angelou speech, and I was supposed to actually meet Maya Angelou that day, and she never came to Campus West. But I fainted on stage because I always get nervous when I do public speaking. Even to this day, my hands sweat, like all of that. But real quick, so Miss Doyle encouraged me to enter my essay into this essay writing contest. And I'm like, no, I didn't want to do it. And then she called the house and talked to, my foster parents about it. And they said, no, go ahead and do it. So she did it. And I won the contest. And I won a trip to Disney for that contest. So ever since then, and she still tells me this to this day, she calls me a journalist. She, like, ever since then, she thought I was going to be in journalism. And it's so crazy because that's what I actually went to Buff State for, was journalism and communication.
Wow. Listen, man, yo, Miss Doyle is like, it's hard to even explain like the role she plays in people's lives. It's not something that you can really quantify. Like, it's right. It's like, have you ever read The Alchemist?
Yep.
Okay, so she's like,
I actually just gave it to my daughter, my 18-year-old daughter. To read.
Yes. Yo, I gave it to my daughter when they turned 18 as well. It was the first graduation present for high school, And then she never read it though. I'm like, yo, you read that book yet?
Yeah, I don't think my daughter read it either.
But in that book, in the beginning, I'm not gonna tell the book, but Nebuchadnezzar is this king that he meets with. And then all throughout the book, like he keeps showing up as different things. And I feel like Eva Doyle is very similar to the king and the alchemist, because she always shows up when you need that push. Yes, as something different. So I'm putting that together. So I'm assuming by your story you'll be down.
Keep me posted. Yep.
I'm gonna keep you posted. So
let me know what I can do to help.
Absolutely. So I will keep you posted on that. So y'all stay tuned for that, because that's going to be a whole nother situation. But Tamika, thank you so much for coming and kicking it with me today, man.
Thank you.
I appreciate you. You know, our stories intertwine in so many ways. Like my daughter was one of the I guess like teachers for your kids at the program. So it's like full circle. Was so amazing just to see how this stuff works and how you never know how your story is tied with somebody else's story. So
exactly. And my daughter still talks about your daughter.
That's dope, man.
About it.
So yeah, man, just thank you again for doing what you're doing, being a real huge influence on the people. You know, we are now the Eva Doyles of our generation, and we gotta step, you know, we gotta go. We can't let her down. You know what I'm saying?
We got some big shoes.
Yes, absolutely. But as always, y'all, man, if y'all got any questions for Tamika, she told you how to reach out to her. I will put the links in the description of this episode. But I want to thank you for coming out and spending this time with me. I know your time is money, so I'll put the check in the mail. But,
no, we good. We good. Cool. I ain't gonna charge you this time.
Call it even. We'll call it even. I'll do something. I got you. But as always, y'all, thank you for coming out, watching the show. Be dope and be great.
Thank you.